The story of Ford's rise to muscle car dominance begins in the early 1960s, a period when the American automotive landscape was undergoing a dramatic transformation. Post-war prosperity had given rise to a new generation of young drivers who craved speed, style, and individuality in their cars. Ford, always attentive to market shifts, recognized this demand and introduced a 1964 one-half Mustang, a car that would not only spark the pony car craze, but also serve as a foundation for Ford's muscle car legacy. At first, the Mustang was more about style and affordability than raw performance, but its massive popularity soon drew it into the horsepower wars. Rival manufacturers were stuffing increasingly powerful V8s into their cars, and Ford quickly followed suit, offering engines like the 289 Hyper V8, and eventually moving toward larger and more aggressive power plants. By the late 1960s, the Mustang had transformed from a stylish commuter's dream into a legitimate street and strip competitor. What truly solidified Ford's place in the muscle car hierarchy was its willingness to engineer performance variants that directly appealed to enthusiasts and racers. The company launched the Shelby GT350 and GT500, cars developed in collaboration with Carroll Shelby, which combined race-inspired engineering with Mustang's everyday appeal. These models didn't just boost horsepower. They brought handling upgrades, aggressive styling, and exclusivity that set them apart. Meanwhile, Ford's big block offerings like the 428 Cobra Jet, introduced in 1968, turned the Mustang into a drag strip terror, capable of sub-14-second quarter miles straight from the showroom floor. Not long after, Ford introduced the Boss 429, one of the rarest and most legendary Mustangs ever built, featuring a massive NASCAR-bred engine stuffed into a Mustang body, designed to dominate in both homologation and street presence. Beyond the Mustang, Ford also tested its muscle car strength with other models like the Fairlane Thunderbolt, which was specifically engineered for drag racing and packed a 427 cubic inch V8 that struck fear into competitors. These bold moves made it clear that Ford wasn't content with merely competing in the muscle car scene. It wanted to lead it. By the dawn of the 1970s, Ford had firmly established its reputation as a manufacturer that could deliver affordable performance to the masses while also creating rare, high-horsepower legends for collectors and racers. This foundation of innovation, engineering bravery, and rivalry-driven ambition set the stage for Ford's later triumphs, eventually leading to creation of the most powerful Ford muscle car ever produced decades down the line. As the muscle car movement matured, Ford found itself navigating an era of both intense competition and constant change, each phase pushing to refine its vision of performance. The 1970s muscle car boom was short-lived, as stricter emissions regulations, insurance premiums, and the oil crisis forced manufacturers to cut back on raw horsepower. Ford's beloved Mustang shrank in size during the Mustang 2 years, and while it kept the name alive, it lacked the aggressive firepower that had defined the late 60s golden era. Yet this lull was not the end of Ford's muscle legacy. It was a pause, a recalibration, before the company returned stronger. By the 1980s, the Fox-body Mustang became a beacon of hope for enthusiasts. Its lightweight design and growing aftermarket support allowed Ford to re-establish its performance credibility, and the introduction of models like the 5.0 Mustang GT proved that affordable American muscle could once again dominate the streets. The 1990s and early 2000s marked a turning point where Ford began to not only revisit its muscle car roots, but also modernize them with new technology. The SN95 Mustang revived styling cues from earlier generations, while Ford's partnership with SVT, Special Vehicle Team, birthed high-performance models like the Cobra and Cobra R, which showcased more refined handling and higher output V8s. This era was crucial because it showed that Ford wasn't simply focused on straight-line performance anymore. It was engineering cars that could corner, stop, and handle with the sophistication of European sports cars while still offering the brute muscle identity Americans loved. The competition during this period was fierce, with Chevrolet's Camaro Z28 and Dodge's Viper pushing boundaries, but Ford answered with consistency and a growing dedication to the Mustang nameplate as its performance flagship. By the late 2000s, technological advancements in supercharging, fuel injection, and computer-aided tuning unlocked an entirely new level of muscle car potential. Ford leaned into this with the return of the Shelby GT500, a car that reintroduced Shelby heritage to a modern generation with enormous horsepower numbers previously unthinkable in a street-legal Mustang. The 2007 GT500 came with a 500-plus horsepower supercharged V8, sparking renewed excitement for the Mustang performance future. As the horsepower wars reignited in the 2010s, Ford continued to push the limits with increasingly powerful iterations of the GT500, as well as track-focused models like the Boss 302 and GT350R, which balanced raw power with precision engineering. Each new model built upon decades of lessons learned, blending the swagger of the classic era with the sophistication of modern automotive technology. By this time, the muscle car was no longer just a boulevard bruiser. It was a supercar rival, and Ford stood at the front lines of this transformation. All of these incremental steps, from the rebirth of the Mustang GT to the rise of the modern Shelbys, laid the groundwork for what will become Ford's ultimate statement piece, the most powerful muscle car it ever produced. The decades of experimentation, rivalry, and innovation ultimately culminated in the arrival of the 2020 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500, a machine that did not just carry the Mustang name, but redefined what a muscle car could be in the modern age. Ford engineers poured every ounce of their performance expertise into the GT500, creating a car that stood at the intersection of heritage and cutting-edge technology. Beneath its sculpted lay the heart of a monster, the 5.2-liter Predator, V8 engine, hand-built and supercharged to produce a jaw-dropping 760 horsepower and 625 lb-ft of torque. This wasn't just Ford's most powerful Mustang. It was the most powerful road-legal Ford muscle car ever built, surpassing anything the company had produced in over half a century of performance engineering. With this engine, the GT500 could catapult from 0 to 60 in just over 3 seconds, a figure once reserved for exotic supercars, not American muscle coupes. What made the 2020 GT500 truly groundbreaking was that it didn't sacrifice sophistication for raw muscle. Earlier muscle cars were often criticized for being one-dimensional, fast in a straight line, but unwieldy when asked to corner or brake. The GT500 shattered that stereotype with 7-speed Tremec dual-clutch transmission, a first for a Mustang, which allowed for lightning-fast gear shifts and precision control that rivaled European track weapons. Its advanced suspension, aerodynamic enhancements, and massive Brembo brakes ensured it could dominate a road course with the same authority it commanded on the drag strip. Ford had essentially built a car that honored the raw spirit of the muscle car era while embedding it with supercar technology, making the GT500 a global statement that American performance could compete on any stage. Equally important was the symbolism behind the GT500. It wasn't just another high-powered Mustang. It was a statement piece that brought together the history of Carroll Shelby's racing influence, the legacy of Ford's 1960s dominance, and the company's determination to push beyond boundaries. At the same time Chevrolet had unleashed the Camaro ZL1 and Dodge was making waves with its Hellcats, Ford ensured the GT500 stood tall as a definitive Mustang, a car that blended tradition, power, and modernity into one breathtaking package. The 2020 GT500 became more than just the most powerful Ford muscle car ever. It became the crown jewel of Ford performance lineage, the living proof that the company's relentless pursuit of speed and innovation had reached its ultimate expression. For enthusiasts, collectors, and muscle car historians, the GT500 is not just another chapter in Ford's story. It is a climax, the pinnacle achievement that represents everything Ford muscle has ever aspired to be.